Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Talented Learning Demonstration Series. This is my favorite series of content because we get to travel around the world and meet with the best learning system organizations in the world. Today, we're out in Utah and we're learning all about the Brainstorm application. For those of you that watch the hot take or even listen to the podcast with their CEO, you'll know that Brainstorm comes at customer education from a different angle, a very productive and measurable angle, and we're going to learn all about it today. Brainstorm, it's all yours. Take it away.
Hey, thanks a ton, John. So, one of the things that I want to make sure we help the audience understand is who Brainstorm is, what we do, why we do it, and how we do it. So, Brainstorm, we like to say we're the SaaS platform for SaaS adoption because a lot of times when you think about helping organizations get the value out of technology, we think learning, we think training, but adoption actually needs to cover the entire change process. So as I hop in here, it might be helpful. Oftentimes you might think, okay, so what is Brainstorm? Are you an LMS? The answer is, yeah, we can replace your LMS. I will say Brainstorm is different than an LMS, and hopefully as we talk today, that will make more sense. We also work alongside the other tools that you have in your tech stack. So we integrate with your CRM, we work alongside your CSP, we may even want to tie in and integrate with your telemetry data and work alongside your end product guides. So those are some things to think about. Now, when it comes down to what we do, Brainstorm is designed really specifically to solve some specific problems that have to do with user adoption. One is you have new customers with new admins, and those admins need to understand the tool so they can launch the tool effectively. Then they need to be able to launch that to end users and make sure that the end user is adopting it successfully. But then we want to take those admins who are supporting the end users and we want to enable them with insights and data and control so that they take ownership of the experience, which is oftentimes a huge gap in the way we think about customer education. If it is meant to be customer education, it also has to be customer enablement, which can't just be, I give you a course on my academy. It needs to be something where the customer can take control. And so that means that we're going to then turn into some sort of ongoing user adoption. So once we've enabled the admin, then they can take on their own campaigns and their own strategies to make sure that their end users are successful. So what does that look like in practice? Well, there's kind of three main parts of that you need to think about. One is I got to be smart about when and how I communicate. So you have to have some Marcom. Think HubSpot for end user engagement. Then we need to train them, and we need to do that in an automated and in a scalable way that focuses on each individual customer's needs, which unfortunately, like I said, we tend to do this one size fits all approach, or we think about user persona, but we divorce it from what the customer needs specifically. And then there's a third component, which is making sure that we're tracking how engagement is solving the adoption problem. So that's why oftentimes we want to integrate with your telemetry data so that we can showcase the usage impact. So if a user gets trained, is that causing them to change their behavior? So there's a couple things to think about. One is you as the vendor, you're going to go through and you're going to create what we call an adaptive workflow. Now, adaptive workflows are different than a course. They might be a campaign, they might be a combination of the two, but essentially you want to come up and think through your objective and your strategy and create the content that's going to be relevant for that. Then you're going to publish those workflows into private portals for each client. So instead of sending everyone to one generic academy for you, you're sending them into a private portal for the customer. And I don't just mean an extended enterprise where you take your generic content and slap a logo on it. No, we mean give them a full, rich LMS that they can control, they can admin, they can add users, they can track and see how things are going, or even if needed, uploading their own content into that portal. Now, one of the first questions that comes up whenever I talk about that on the vendor side is, well, that sounds like it's going to be difficult to manage. Well, good news is if you create a course, the link is the same for everybody. The login page, same for everybody. However, all of that information is living in their own private portal, and we can even automate the creation and the setup of all that process through the integration process that we would do with your CRM system or your licensing data. Now, once all that's all set up and configured for the customer, well, they can work with your CSM to identify and target end users correctly. And then those end users are going to receive information that comes from their leadership, encouraging them to go through specific training that's relevant to them and their role. So each customer is going to receive this power to be successful. And what's powerful about this is, as a result, we've been able to see that we can get 10 or 20 times the reach that you would get from a normal academy because we're deputizing the customer. Monthly visits in your product academy may be great. They might not be. In my experience, most product academies are have a reach rate of somewhere in the realm of under 5%. So in fact, it's oftentimes down as low as 1 or 2%. So your monthly active users in your academy is going to be low. We want to increase that. Second, we have really great open rates on emails because of the strategy and how these emails are coming out. It comes across as this, you've invested in a solution that's going to really help me as a customer. And then one of the other indicators that we're going to want to look at is we're going to want to look at the percentage of clients with a current active adoption initiative. Now, one of the things that's so funny is a lot of times the only time a customer gets engaged with learning is when they purchase. So obviously onboarding is important, but how do we then make sure that they always have an initiative to drive better success and help them take ownership of that in the long term? So that's at a high level how this works. I'm going to hop in real quick and show you this so you can get a little bit of an idea from a product demo how Brainstorm works. So I'm going to start here inside of an admin portal. I'm logged in as a fake company, Kirk Technologies. Just assume this for a minute is just your software vendor company. So as a software vendor, there's a few things that we're going to do differently when we think about Brainstorm first. What you'll notice is I'm starting here on my accounts page. So every single customer is going to appear in here as their own account. Why does that matter? Well, I want to create a personalized touch for each customer that I work with. Now, you might have different CSM teams, different account teams who are supporting each customer. If I click into Baxter Make, one of the things that you'll notice here is I can even label that account. So I could come in here and be able to identify that this is a finance account, right? I could label this as maybe it's an SMB account because it's a local small bank. And so as you add different labels, you can also target and segment individual accounts as you're going through and set up for these different customers. That's a big deal for a couple of reasons. If you understand who your different target audiences are and you can filter and sort and find those accounts, then that means I can create targeted campaigns for those accounts. So labeling and identifying accounts matter. You could even come in this and use this to, target specific accounts by a person who's on the CSM team. And so you could do it that way. But as I take my different accounts, one of the things that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to go and determine what content they have access to. So you can see I've taken different content pieces. Some of that content I'm automatically giving to customers. Some of that's content that they may not have access to anymore that I've allow expire. Some of that content might be from Brainstorm to help enable that customer. So you can add what are called packs inside of Brainstorm to each customer, and that is going to be really important in a minute. So just so you understand, as you create accounts, you can pick and choose how you're going to target each of those different audiences, and you can ensure that each of those audiences have exactly what they need for their organization to be successful with your technology. Now, when it comes down to how do I target those customers with different experiences, well, there's a couple of things. One is we got to think through what content we're going to deliver to them. So Brainstorm doesn't think about content in the traditional way that you might think about content if you were doing this as a standard LMS. The first thing is, if I were going to create learning and resources, I'm going to add micro-learning assets first. So you'll notice I can upload videos, I can drag and drop them in here, easy peasy. I can change this view if I want to so I can see more visual. This is just a bunch of demo content, so they're not as pretty. We'll go back to the list view because they're not as pretty. Now, the other piece here is I can also embed content. So if you wanted to embed content from Wistia or Vimeo or, I don't know, YouTube or something, you can also pull those content in as little micro learning pieces. So you can pull in those individual assets. Now, each asset that you add can be sent and accessed by the customer individually, or you can combine it with other resources. So as an example, same thing with like a survey. You could take surveys and you could put this in here and say, hey, what do I need to do first? Cool. Well, I'm going to give you a survey question that allows you to pick and choose where you want to go on a journey. This is a very simple example, but you could create surveys that could be viewed on their own. Like this one right here is a customer education pulse survey. So maybe I'm going to send that out to lots of different customers versus one where I'm going to ask them a question at the end of a course. So you have a lot of flexibility in how you add these things if you want to be combined with a video or if you wanted them to be seen on their own. I could create quizzes. I could upload PDFs. I can also use this to create events. So maybe you're doing online webinars and you want to train customers through webinars. You'll notice I've got my event here. I can even come in and set up that I want this to go to a Zoom call and I want this to occur on a specific date. I could even set it up to be recurring so that that happens weekly and all my users can come in, or set the limit the registration to 100. So you have a lot of flexibility in that nature too. But then the one that I really think is powerful is the idea of creating communications. So you can create messages that could be sent through platforms like Teams or Slack to customers. You can also create emails that would be sent and triggered out to customers as well. So like I showed you that idea of creating a survey. Well, maybe I wanted to come in here and create a survey email template that's going to go out to my users. And I want to schedule that to go out to a certain subset of customers. This one's in draft mode, so it won't let me send it. But you can even schedule messages to go out just like you would in MailChimp or something else like that. It is designed specifically to do that. Now, the last piece of this is I'm going to take all of those different elements and then I can create what's called a flow. So a flow might be something like this, where I've got a really simple experience. I pulled in a couple of videos, a survey, and then based off of how they answer that survey, I'm presenting different video content to that user. Now, that's a really simple flow, right? I could create a course with some content and put that all together, and now a user can go see that. So if I wanted to see that in context of, say, something like a user welcome for end user onboarding, maybe I'm combining multiple elements here. So notice I'm going to send an email. That email will click into a video. A week later, it sends them a follow-up email. If they click on that, it asks them a question. Depending on how I answer that question, maybe I give them different content and different resources and potentially give them a follow-up survey or even link them to another course if they choose to go down that route. So you can get really, really creative with these different experiences and have them adapt to the needs of the user. Let's take that even a step further and just look at maybe one that is a little bit more fleshed out even beyond that. And this is how we might, you'll notice this is like it's got a survey, it's looping and branching and encouraging users to go down different tracks. It's sending follow-up emails, it's sending different surveys and all these different elements. So you can use this as a canvas to really visualize the exact experience that you want the user to go down as part of this. Now, when you take that content, you associate it into what's called a pack. So you'll see here, I have a pack that I've put this content into. And when you put content into a pack, it means I can target specific users or specific accounts with that experience. Remember, when I was in my account list before at the start of this, I could go into a customer and then give them access to a specific pack. So you'll see I have my Kirk Tech pack. I've got my Google Workspace pack because it's just different random content experiences. But I could come in here and go search for that one we were just looking at before and add my pack that I want to have be accessible to this customer. Now, I also get to choose how much of that content is available. So maybe they have 100 licenses to that software, and I want them to have access to it when they come up until they come up for renewal in June of next year. So you can pick and choose how long that customer has access to that pack. Why does that matter? Well, we could automate this and set it up for them to have as many as they wanted for as long as you wanted, or we could use this as a way to provide premium support to targeted customer types. Maybe a more heavy licensed customer, I want to give them a more tailored experience, so I can pick and choose different packs that I would give access to different customers. Now, one of the other things that you might notice is that I have these two tabs right here that say templated users and templates. So everything that I just showed you, you're probably like, wow, that's pretty cool. I like that I can manage individual customers that way, but I don't have, Todd, you have 10 fake customers in this account. I might have hundreds or thousands of customers, and I don't want to have to manage each of them one by one by one. Well, the way you solve that problem is through something called a template. So a template creates a group inside of an organization for users you want to target with an experience that is relevant to that audience. but you do that across all of your customers. So let's say I want to have an onboarding customer scenario. I'm going to onboard new customers. Notice here I've got an enrollment rule, and it's going to look for any user who was added inside the system within the last couple of months. And now that it's done that, I'm going to then pick the Kirk Tech onboarding pack that I want to give that user. And I'm going to ensure that they receive that user welcome that we just set up. So now, as soon as a user is enrolled or a customer is enrolled into this templated experience, the users who are new get access. They're triggered that email that comes out to them and it enrolls them in that very specific flow. So all I would have to do is, now that I've set that up once, just go in and add all of my customers to that experience, and anybody who meets those enrollment criteria will automatically get access to that experience and get access to the content and receive the email that I need to kick off that whole flow. So basically what you're doing is you're coming in here and you're setting up a templated experience, but notice that could get really, that could get even more narrow. So that's for like new hires or new users. What if I wanted to target someone who was a developer? So I could come in here and say, I want anybody who has the job title that's equal to developer. And so now any user I add in that meets that criteria will automatically get pulled into that experience for their organization. And maybe I can give a tailored experience to someone who's more technical or has, works in a specific job title or department, and make sure that they have exactly what they need from that. Now, the template power is awesome because it means that I can take a flow that is customizable, that the user gets to choose their own journey, but then I get to pick which flows are put in front of which users at the organizational level. And then I can templatize that so that all of my customers that reach the same criteria get a personalized experience, and that's all done in one go. So it really is designed to be that simple. Now, on top of that, we roll all of this data into reporting that you get. This is a demo environment, so it's not going to have really any content. If I click into it, it'll be kind of empty looking, but yeah, look at the one user who started that flow, right? But we can have all of this data to track across all of my customers. What are all the customers that went into this template? How many users went through and experienced that content as I needed them to? How many users watched this video? How many users answered this survey? What did they say? How did they feel about this experience? So we're wrapping all this data up for you so it's clean and powerful for you to make some decisions around. How many people opened the email that got sent? Did they click on it? So you can even understand all the way down to the engagement that's happening outside of your platform. We have source tracking, so you can even see acquisition. If I put in a UTM link, did the user come from a link that I put inside of my website? Or did they come from a webinar link that we sent out? Or did they come from the email that we sent them? So you can pull in and understand how a user is coming into the platform and getting acquired. So there's really powerful information like that. Now, if you want to take that a step further, we're not just tracking the engagement and the source data for how they're coming into Brainstorm and interacting, but we also look to interact and pull in your usage telemetry data so that we can understand, is this making an impact on the adoption overall? So it can't just be, did we get someone to watch a video? It has to ultimately come down to, did we change their behavior at scale? So that, in a nutshell, is what Brainstorm is and how it works. Think of it as your customer management system for education. You're going to manage each customer. You're going to help them understand exactly what they need for their scenario. And by giving each customer their own portal, like as one of the last piece here, we can even choose to give the customer the ability to create their own content. And so now, not only did you give them learning for you that might be generic, but what if they have a specific workflow or a specific process that they follow? We can make it so they can even upload their own content into the system. So hopefully that gives you just a little bit of a taste of how Brainstorm works.
Wow,
John?
super cool. Love it. Love it. So who creates the content normally when they create the flows? Is that something that you help your clients with, or is it always on the expectation that they have to do it?
Yeah, good call out. Brainstorm does have content creation services. So if a customer needs help figuring out how to build out their packs of content, we provide some advisory and guidance. But we also have some really great resources that we can use to help you learn how to do it on your own. So yeah, short stories will help you make the content if you need help. A lot of times, a lot of the software vendors that I've worked with, if you come from a traditional L&D background, you probably have invested a lot of content in I would say, a little bit of dated or archaic forms of content creation, and that just don't really work in this micro learning environment. And so we'll even help you figure out a new strategy to modernize and update the way your content is being presented.
Interesting. Can you use the telemetry from the product usage data to drive actions then within the LMS, like serving up of content?
We can, yeah. So there's a concept called an external trigger, and we're even thinking about putting this more into a workflow engine and a management strategy where you could go in and identify specific users that meet different criteria, right? Users who haven't logged in yet, or users who have been doing one type of action but not another, and then use that to then customize the recommendations to the customer or to the end user based off of their experience and usage inside the application. So we can target a user based off of who they are, right? We can target a user based off of what they think about. So that might be off of a survey as an example. And then third is what they actually do. So if I know, John, you have this job title and you think this way and you're using this application, I can get really smart about what content I present to you. And that's what the platform is designed to do.
Yeah, and that's really the power of it. That's the power of it. I think from a competitive standpoint, learning management systems are good at basically using known data that might be somewhere else, maybe in a CRM or HR system for that matter, but it's data from somewhere else. But what it's always lacking is the telemetry and to be able to tie those three pieces together. And I think that's really special because, there's a proven connection between usage and renewals and churn and the total lifetime value of a customer. So, getting that usage up, the fundamental goal of your organization, leads right to the revenue line, which is excellent. Also, what's
If
go
I
ahead.
if I could, John, I think that's a good segue because I think, one of the things that's challenging in the mindset of how we typically focus this is we tend to only focus on and train the end users who are already invested in the platform. I mean, think about it. Your product academy is focused on the active users who are seeking out learning and courses. Most end users have never gone to your tool, don't know about it, don't care about it, right? So you've already
Mm.
limited yourself there. Product support, same story. The person already has to be invested. Product comms that are sent out by the product marketing team, those are only generally opened by very, very active users who like want to attend public free webinars. Again, very small audience. And then in product tours, only support those who are already there. So you have to have a strategy that's going to reach out to all of your users, regardless of their activity or investment in your platform. And then lastly, if you were to think about just to summarize all of this, right? The way you reach users, you want to try to get to all of them. You want to get to more of them if you can. And the Product Academy, it's really built to be a resource, not a tool. So for us, we're trying to shift that mindset. It's not just a resource you could tell a customer about, you're giving them a tool. Then instead of being passive, it needs to transition to being something that's proactive. You're actively reaching out and campaigning to the user. It can't be a destination where you're sending the user to you. It has to be a tool that goes to them. So you need to put it in their hands. We talked about adaptive learning. So it can't just be a linear course. It needs to be something that changes. It can't just be something that's only giving you insight into academy usage, but you want to also see if that ties back to product adoption, like we talked about. And then, instead of a one-to-many self-service model, you want to create private portals that allow the customer to be enabled and take control. So those are just some other things to like. If you're looking at this, you're like, I don't understand how this is different, Todd. I think this might be a helpful way to think about how Brainstorm is taking a very different approach. So.
Yeah, no, it really does a nice job at showing the difference between the approaches, and the difference is significant. I think your expertise of going after that one use case or one of the use cases of software adoption, and then just thinking through that and all the different pieces, really puts you in a nice driver's seat in terms of the industry and the differentiation of your product for sure. I've loved it since the first time I've seen it, and it's neat to see you guys focusing down this direction. It's so adaptive, it's so personalized, and as I mentioned, it goes to just the core of everything. Get more usage, and all your other numbers go up. From customer sat to retention, to all the things that you want, complementary sales, reoccurring revenue, lifetime value, customer lifetime value are all tied to usage. And if only 5% are heading to your academy, you don't have to move that bar a lot to make a big difference. And by moving the bar a lot, you make a ginormous difference. And that's pretty strategic for any customer facing organization, education or operations, or however you group it up in your organization. That's a powerful way to look at this problem. Listeners, now you know why I say it's my favorite series of content. It's cool stuff. You can't see this anywhere else. Thanks for tuning in. on another episode of the Talented Learning Show demonstration series. Thank you, Brainstorm, Todd, for taking us through the organization, the solution, and a demonstration. It was great to have you here. And you can find more information and engage with Brainstorm at brainstorminc.com. I think is the best place to go, easiest. And I encourage you to do so, especially if you're a software company, SaaS company. There's a lot of upside to be had. So there you have it, folks. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next.